It's a story about land, rights, law, and identity, and it's crucial we understand it. For thousands of years, they have governed their territories, known as Yinta, through a traditional, non-colonial system. This is a key point we'll come back to. Their connection to the land isn't just about ownership. It's deeply spiritual and cultural. It's where they hunt, fish, gather, and pass down traditions from one generation to the next. This is a massive 670-kilometer project designed to transport natural gas from northeastern BC to a new export facility in Kitimat on the coast. The company TC Energy says the project will bring economic benefits, jobs, and energy to the region and beyond. They argue that the elected band councils only have authority over the small reserve lands created by the Canadian government, not the entire 22,000 square kilometers of the traditional unceded Wet'suwet'en territory, the Yinta. While it didn't grant title to a specific area, it confirmed that the hereditary chiefs are the rightful title holders and that their authority over the land must be respected. So, the hereditary chiefs, citing their authority under Wet'suwet'en law and the Delgamuukw decision, have consistently opposed the Coastal GasLink pipeline crossing their territory. They are concerned about the project's potential impact on the land, the water, and the wildlife that are central to their way of life. They've raised concerns about the pipeline's route, especially where it crosses the sacred Wedzin Kwa, also known as the Morris River, which is a vital source of clean water and salmon. This opposition wasn't just verbal. The hereditary chiefs and their supporters established checkpoints and camps along the access roads to the pipeline construction sites to assert their sovereignty and prevent construction. This is where things really escalated. Coastal GasLink obtained court injunctions to remove these blockades, arguing they had all the necessary permits from the provincial government and agreements with the elected councils. This led to several high-profile police enforcement actions by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP. We saw heavily armed officers moving in to dismantle the camps and arrest land defenders, including elders and matriarchs. The images from these raids were broadcast around the world, sparking widespread outrage and solidarity protests. Suddenly, this wasn't just a local dispute in northern BC, it became a national crisis. In early 2020, in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs, Indigenous and non-Indigenous allies set up blockades on major railway lines, ports, and highways across Canada. The economic disruption was massive, forcing freight and passenger trains to a standstill for weeks. The slogan "Shut Down Canada" became a rallying cry, and the protests highlighted a deep divide in the country. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government was caught in the middle. On one hand, they champion a message of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. On the other, they support major energy projects like this pipeline, framing them as being in the national interest. The government and the BC Premier called for dialogue, but the situation was at a stalemate. The company had legal injunctions, the hereditary chiefs had their inherent rights, and the country was watching. Eventually, after weeks of disruption, the federal and provincial governments sat down with the Wet'suwet'en and hereditary chiefs. They reached a memorandum of understanding, a proposed arrangement to move forward on recognizing and implementing Wet'suwet'en rights and title. It was seen as a potential path forward, a way to finally address the unresolved questions from the Delgamuukw court case over 2 decades earlier. However, this memorandum didn't resolve the immediate conflict over the pipeline itself. It was an agreement to negotiate a long-term solution on title, but it explicitly stated that it was not a consent for the current project. Since then, construction on the pipeline has continued, and so has the opposition. There have been more standoffs, more arrests, and ongoing legal battles. The conflict has also created deep divisions within the Wet'suwet'en nation itself. Some members support the pipeline for the jobs and economic stability it promises in a region with limited opportunities. Others stand firm with the hereditary chiefs, believing that protecting the land for future generations is more important than any short-term economic gain. This internal debate is painful and complex, and it's a direct consequence of these competing governance systems being forced into conflict. So, what does this all mean? The Wet'suwet'en crisis is a powerful example of the unresolved issues at the heart of Canada's relationship with Indigenous peoples. It forces us to ask some very difficult questions. Who has the right to make decisions about land that was never surrendered? What does reconciliation actually look like when it clashes with economic interests? How can Canada respect both its own laws, which acknowledge Aboriginal title, and the traditional laws of Indigenous nations that have existed for centuries? This isn't a simple story of pro-pipeline versus anti-pipeline. It's a story about sovereignty. It's about who gets to decide the future of the land. The Wet'suwet'en and hereditary chiefs are not just fighting a pipeline. They're fighting to have their authority, their laws, and their relationship with their territory recognized and respected, not just in theory by a court, but in practice on the ground. The situation remains incredibly tense and unresolved. While the pipeline is nearing completion, the fundamental questions about rights and title remain. The outcome of this struggle will have profound implications not just for the Wet'suwet'en, but for all Indigenous nations in Canada and for the future of resource development across the country. It's a story that's still being written, and it's one we all need to keep paying attention to. Thanks for watching and taking the time to understand this complex issue. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the topics that matter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but please keep the discussion respectful. See you in the next one.